You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, GH fans. So, Lucky Spencer is back on Friday, August 23rd. That's his first air date. And in a recent interview, Jonathan Jackson talked about where his character's been. And no, it's not on an extended vacation. In fact, it seems like he is in danger and has been for a while. And it looks like the Cassadines may be to blame. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to share some insights on Lucky's return and why it might be hard for him to make it back home before Lulu Spencer's life and death crisis gets any deeper. But Lucky's not a match for a liver transplant, so at least there's not that on the table. Nikolas Cassadine is, but he is in prison out of state. Charlotte might be a match because she's Lulu's daughter. Rocco might be a match as well. But in the meantime, on GH, it looks like Lucky himself has some life and death drama as well. Will his captors release him, or will Luke and Laura's son have to fight his way out? Before we dive into the spoiler about Lucky, here's what Jonathan Jackson had to say. He said one of the biggest incentives to come back this time was getting to work with Genie Francis again. He told TV Guide when he came back in 2010 and 2011 for just a few episodes, she wasn't on the show then, and he really, really missed her. He didn't stay long. And this time, the Lucky actor said he is sticking around for a while, a substantial run, he called it. Unlike his very brief 2015 return, that was 9 years ago, when he was back for Tony Geary's final episodes as his TV dad, Luke Spencer. So this time around, John Jackson said getting to work with his TV mom, Genie Francis, was a big incentive for him to return. He said his comeback as Lucy, of course, real, substantial. So I'm hoping the writers have something good for him. I worry because it feels like every 3 or 4 weeks they're playing musical chairs in the writer's room, and the consistency and continuity show it, but things are getting better lately, I feel like. Anyway, we will soon find out why Lucky has been gone so long. The actor said Lucky has not been sitting around writing a novel. He has been up to some stuff. And this was an interesting tidbit. John Jackson said that when Lucky returns, he will be the most like his father, Luke Spencer, than he's ever been on General Hospital. Because remember, at one point, he was actually a cop, and Luke was always on the wrong side of the law. So very interesting. Jonathan Jackson also had super, super nice things to say about the influence that Genie Francis and Tony Geary had when he was younger and continue to have in his life even now. He talked about when he started on General Hospital at age 11, that baby face, you guys remember it. He was under their care and mentorship when he debuted as young Lucky, and he called his real life and his behind the scenes relationship with his TV parents one of the greatest gifts of his life. John Jackson also said it was the best situation to learn the craft of acting. And he said no matter what project he's working on, even now, that he feels like Genie and Tony are there with him because of their influence on him. So if you're a fan of the actor, in addition to being a fan of Lucky Spencer, you might have watched Jonathan Jackson on his 6th season ABC hit primetime show, Nashville. He played a country music star named Avery. He was so good. I watched Nashville and I loved it. I don't even like country music, and I loved this show. If you've never seen it, you can check it out on Hulu, Prime, or Disney+. So back to the return of Lucas Lorenzo Spencer Jr. You will be happy to know he's back as of today, Friday, August 23rd, but he's not back in Port Charles. It looks like he is far away from Port Chuck. And it looks like Luke and Laura's son might actually be in Cassadine hands, or at least captive on a set that I've only ever seen linked to the Cassadines in the past. So on Friday, look to see Lucky Spencer's face for the first time in almost a decade. He is in shackles and he is in the exact same room where we first saw recast Cameron Matheson in his first scenes as Drew Kane. The only difference is they've added a chair to the room and they flipped the cot around to put the pillow on the other end. Otherwise, same room, almost the same furniture, same walls, everything. It is the same. It is a facility called the Compound Prison on the Cassadine property in Greece. It's like this sub-basement thing. Victor Cassadine and Peter August both kept prisoners there. And of course, now they're both dead and gone on GH. And at one point, Valentine Cassadine was also, I think he was held there and then he was kind of running amok there. And he's a top candidate for someone we might see there with Lucky if this is indeed Cassadine related. Remember, Valentine is hiding out and the family compound in Greece is well protected, and that might be where he took Charlotte. That would be an interesting conversation because Valentine is the father of Lucky's niece, Charlotte Cassadine, who he's not met, and at one point, Liesl Obrecht was also held there, and she's been off scene for quite a while. I would be thrilled if we saw Kathleen Gotti at the prison compound again. And it could be that General Hospital is just repurposing the set, to have wherever Lucky Spencer is imprisoned, or maybe this is indeed a Cassadine plot. I mean, Helena Cassadine was very focused on Lucky at several points in the past, including, I think, fake death, all kinds of stuff with Helena. I'm trying to remember even now. And of course, she was obsessed with Luke also. She's also supposedly dead, but given how intense the Spencer and Cassadine animosity has been in the past, I'm hoping that's what we are getting. It would be really interesting. This would be a treat, just throwing this out here. I don't think it's going to happen. But just in my mind, if I had my druthers, for Lucky to find Spencer Cassadine there. Anyway, I have heard some rumors we may be getting another Cassadine big bad, but I have not seen any movement on that or mention in official channels. Don't forget, Victor is the one responsible for Luke's death in that cable car accident a few years ago. So, maybe Victor scooped up Lucky around the same time. And of course, now Victor's dead and somebody else would be running the show. The last time we saw Lucky, of course, was just for a couple of episodes when Tony Geary did his big exit as his dad, Luke. But really, the return I remember better was when Lucky showed up to bring home not dead Jake Weber, Elizabeth and Jason's biological son that Lucky was raising as his own, but Jake was struck down as a very little kid by Luke and he died. But then there was that big retcon and they undid that very poignant death, which it was terrible that they undid that, honestly. And then they had to undo the fact that Jake's kidney saved Jocelyn. They rewrote it to make it Nell Benson's kidney. It was just a messy, messy retcon. But Lucky found Jake with Helena Cassadine and then hand delivered him back to Liz before he skidded out of town right fast again. So this time we've got Lucky coming back and he's single, presumably. Elizabeth is single. Fans are very torn on whether they would like to see them in a romance again. A lot of fans are against it. Some would even like to see Lucky with Maxie. Remember back in the day when she was stealing pills? I think she was a candy striper maybe to feed his opioid addiction. That was all such good stuff. And of course, Lucky's only biological child is still in Port Charles, Aiden Spencer. Jake just left to go to school abroad, but Lucky's not his real dad, just the one listed on his birth certificate, and he's never been around that Jake remembers. So we do have the Aiden and Lucky reunion to look forward to. Plus, despite all the doom and gloom about Lulu and her liver, it looks like they have recast her. So that means we should be getting a brother-sister reunion of her and Lucky as well. But the big one definitely will be Jonathan Jackson and Genie Francis's reunion as Lucky and his mom, Laura. And don't forget, Lucky's got a new little brother, a Cassadine to boot. Are they calling the kid Ace Collins now, or do they stick with Ace Cassadine? I haven't heard a mention of the last name. Anyway, Lucky has... his brother Nick is in prison. He's going to find that out. And then he's got this new brother nephew, Ace. And a dead father, and a sister who should be soon in coma recovery mode. So the stage is set for big drama, and I do hope we are not all disappointed. You know, they made such a big deal out of Burton's return as Jason, and for me, it's been a big fizzle, just in my humble opinion. And Frank Valentini got us all hyped up. He said, somebody's coming back. Fans are going to be excited. And it is Jonathan Jackson as Lucky he was talking about. And I hope it pays off. I hope it pays off. Their ratings have actually been picking back up. If this is a dud, they might go back in the other direction. So fingers crossed. Drop your comments on, do you remember the set? Do you see that is the exact same set that Drew was in? Drop your comments. Please subscribe if you're not following us already. Definitely come back soon. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt talking General Hospital with you guys 7 days a week.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.